As a photographer, I typically have the luxury of working with my own RAW files, but I know that many designers aren't always so fortunate. So applying Camera Raw as a smart filter is an ideal way to make changes to a photograph non-destructively when it's not practical to return to the original file and make the changes there. In this image, let's see how Camera Raw can be used as a filter to quickly add a little bit of warmth and a glow to this image. Before applying it, I'll convert it to a smart filter that changes the background into a smart object. And now we can choose Filter and then Camera Raw as a filter. In the basic panel, I'm going to decrease the exposure a little bit and also take down my highlights. But as I do that, we can see that I'm not making use of the entire dynamic range of the histogram anymore. So I'm going to increase my whites. But still, taking down the highlights brought back a little bit of detail in the brighter values of my image. I'm also going to decrease my blacks, again, just to make sure that I'm using the entire dynamic range of the histogram. Then I'm going to add a little bit of clarity, which is actually going to add a little bit of almost a sharpening effect. It's going to add contrast in the midtones and just make the image pop a little bit. But I also want to add a soft glow. So I'm going to take the dehaze in the opposite direction. I'm going to add a negative dehaze. We can see how that's adding kind of a glow to the entire image. All right, to make a color adjustment, I'm going to move to the split toning panel. I want to add a little bit of reds into my shadow area, and I want to add a little bit of yellow, so I'll move the hue and then increase the saturation to add that into my highlights. Then I can use the balance slider to either pull more of the reds into the shadows or into the highlights. As I move it more to the right, we see more of the yellows. So I'm going to change that to maybe plus around 30. All right. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to switch to my graduated filter, and I'm going to preload it with a negative exposure as well as a little bit of a negative temperature, and just click and drag up from the bottom in order to darken that. I can always make adjustments after the fact. So I'm just going to ease up on the exposure as well as the temperature. And if I want to preview this, I can tap the P key. That was before, and this is after. I'll click OK, and we can see that Photoshop has added Camera Raw as a filter to my smart object on the Layers panel. If I need to go in and make changes, all I need to do is double click where it says Camera Raw as a smart filter, and then I can make additional adjustments as necessary. So as you can see, making a few changes to this image really changed kind of the story and the feel behind it. Although I prefer to make these kind of changes to the original RAW files, when that's not possible, Adobe Camera Raw as a filter can be a very powerful tool.